Welcome back to the channel, everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my latest build here, which is my Mark 12 inspired SPR type rifle. Recently just put this one together. Knew I always wanted to have a longer range AR. I'm not really into long range shooting, at least not yet. So all of the ARs that I've put together and favored over the last few years has always been centered more around closer quarter type stuff. So 50 yards or less, or definitely within 100 yards. But you know, I have a 10.3, went over my 12.5 build in the last one. I also have a 13.9, a 14.5, and a 16. So did want to do a Mark 12. Well, let me say I really originally wanted like a Mark 12 with the PRI Handguard, the whole deal. But for me, if I was going to go that route, I really wanted to be a little bit more clone correct, or I would want to go. And I didn't really want to do clone correct. So I wanted to kind of do my own thing. So some might say, hey, that's not a Mark 12. I'm not claiming it's a Mark 12. But when I started to build off, I knew, just like with any AR, you know, you have a purpose of how you want to use the rifle, and then really go with a really good barrel. So instead of going tip the butt with this video, I think I'm gonna go over some of the key components first, and then go over some of the add-ons and why I chose them. Again, going back to the barrel, Centurion, they do make a Mark 12 barrel. The Mark 12 barrels are typically made out of stainless steel, which is less durable than some of the other metals out there, but they do lead to more accuracy. I don't know the science behind that one, but I knew that right off the bat I wanted to get a Centurion barrel. Centurion has definitely been very well known to make some excellent barrels along with the rails. So knew I was going with the Mark 12 barrel. Was able to get my hands on another LMT Marzell lower. Ended up getting this one cheaper than I actually got my last one on. Me being left-handed, having an ambi lower does greatly aid in my shooting. I don't say shooting, at least handling of the gun. So that was an easy choice to go in with this. And then when it came to choosing the upper, I wanted originally to go with a Voltor Muir. The Muir looks like a standard forged receiver, but it's a little bit thicker. I don't know how or where it's thicker, but it was pointed out to me by somebody in one of the forums that the Muir is not compatible with the Marzell because of the ambidextrous controls. So that put that one out. I think you can grind off I don't know exactly which lever it is. It's probably this lever here. If you grind off a little bit of it, it will work, but I didn't really want to do that. I had also been eyeballing the Forward Controls Design URF version 2, I believe this is. It is a billet upper. You know, Forward Control Design definitely is known to make some pretty solid stuff. So once I saw that it was compatible with the Marzell, that was going to be my obvious choice. So that was my decisions between the barrel and then the receivers. As you see, the URF and the Marzell, I mean, they mate together super well. I was very happy with the way they fit together, even though it's just aesthetics. If you happen to notice my 12.5 build, which has an LMT forged upper, where this forging is here, they don't line up even remotely at all. The colors aren't the same. None of that stuff really means anything. It doesn't really bother me, but I can speak at least for this one here. It does line up super well. So moving on from the barrel, the next choice was going to be, okay, so which handguard do I want to go with? So originally, or so typically handguards, I like them to go as far into the muzzle as possible. So I was toying with the idea of getting a 15-inch rail, or maybe even a 17-inch rail. And then after I started doing a little bit more research into looking into Mark 12s and whatnot, you know, when I first started seeing Mark 12s, or at least paying attention to them a little bit more, it was actually the Daniel Defense Mark 12. And with that gun, it's got the exposed gas block, and I never understood why Daniel Defense did that, not knowing that going back to the real Mark 12s put together, they also had that same design. So wanted to stick with that. Wanted a quad rail. I thought about going with an M block or something that was a little bit less weight, considering that the stainless barrel was already pretty heavy itself. But I definitely, I love quad rails. The majority of my guns are M-lock. I only have one other quad rail, and that's on my Mark 18. But considering on this build here, I really want to do the quad. So going with the Centurion C4, that was my choice for the handguard, and then choosing 12 inches so it could have the exposed gas block there to give a little bit of a head nod to the actual Mark 12 itself. Speaking of the gas block, the gas block is also made by Centurion Arms, and what's really great about the barrel and gas block combination is that you can't really see it so well with the lighting here, but the barrel is notched and the gas block is notched. It's like a groove that it fits in, and they are designed that way so that you absolutely cannot have this gas block twisted in the wrong orientation. It's only going to go in one place, at least forward and aft. The barrel also comes pre-dimpled, so all it's a matter of is sliding on your gas block, finding where the dimples are, and then tightening down your set screws, and that's really all there is to it. It makes it almost completely idiot proof, and then there's no extra work that you have to do for dimpling the barrel. My 12.5 Criterion barrel, it only had one dimple in it, and I know plenty of people say that one dimple is more than enough to hold on a gas block. I still went ahead and using my SLR Rifle Works gas block dimpling tool, added the second dimple to it, but with this one here, there was no extra work that was required. It just went on to tighten down the set screws. Going with the gas tube. Gas tube was also purchased from Centurion. It's a stainless tube. Not sure if they make them or if they source them from somebody else. The Centurion C4 quad is secured with it utilizes a standard mil-spec barrel nut. You can kind of see it through the cutouts there in the side of the rail. So once you get the barrel installed, torque that down, it comes in two parts. You put on the upper, you put on the lower. There's two screws here. There's two screws on the other side. And then you have one additional screw here along with one on the other side. And this thing is absolutely rock solid. Very, very sexy quad rail. Definitely very happy with the purchase there. Moving on to the bolt carrier group. So the bolt carrier group, I went with the Psionics Phosphate. I did originally buy this for my 12.5 build that I did, but then I was able to get my hands on one of their Psionics MP3 coated bolt carrier groups. So ended up putting that in the 12.5, and then I reallocated it the BCG to use here in the Mark 12. They say the barrel is the soul of an AR, and the bolt carrier group is the heartbeat. And it's definitely not someone you want to cheap out on. It's not quite as good as, say, the Knights Armament Sand Cutter or the LMT Enhanced, but definitely no slouch. Very, very, very solid bolt carrier group. Moving on to the buffer system, I was debating on this one with going with the fixed stock, kind of like you see with the more traditional Mark 12s. I know the second variation, which I don't remember all the different mod numbers on them, but the second variation did typically go with B5 SOM adjustable stocks. I do like having the option of having adjustability. So I said, okay, I'm going to go with an adjustable stock. And then when it came to the receiver extension, did I want to go ahead and you just use a standard carbine? Or did I want to use a rifle length? So, I use the Bravo BCM Mark II system on my 13.9 that I put together, which is basically BCM's version of the Voltor A5. So it uses a rifle length spring, rifle buffer in it and whatnot. So I decided to go with that on this build. Bought the kit from Primary Arms. It came with the receiver extension, came with the Castle nut, came with the QD end plate, along with the rifle spring and the buffer. You kicked around which buttstock I wanted to go with. Instead I have quite a few B5 SOP mods, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. And the Voltor E mod was going. These are typically used for rifles, anyways. Having this extra bit of material here, as they say, is when you have the gun in the butt of your shoulder, and then you reach around and you grab the stock. That's something to give you a little more purchase. I don't know how great that really works or not. I haven't been able to shoot this gun a whole lot yet. Going on to the grip. So the P5P22, definitely really dig this grip. I ended up putting one on my 12.5 also. As you see this gun, I get a little some OD green flare on there. But back to the grip, the P22 has a little bit less angle to it than the P23. It feels really good in hand. For the trigger guard, I ended up just using the leftover LMT enhanced that I had for my 12.5. Is that one I put on the Forward Control Design Winter trigger guard. Trigger went with the Geissele SSAE. Definitely one of those things I got on a Black Friday deal. Great price. The SSAE is an awesome trigger. For the safety itself, you know, I've put in I've used Radiant Raptors. I don't know if I mentioned it in my 12.5 build video, but I had actual problems where the Radiant Talon safety selector interfered with the operation of the trigger. It had a little bit of a drag on it, and luckily I was able to find that it is due solely to the Radiant Raptor. So on this gun here, I actually ended up just taking, this is the Joe Bob Outfitters ambidextrous safety. So as you see, me being a lefty, I have the longer lever on this side, and on the opposite side, while the lever isn't shorter, it is scalloped, so it doesn't ride on your knuckle. And it also is adjustable to be 60 degrees or 90 degrees. So you have adjustable throw. You can choose which one you want it to be. I always like having that little bit of a shorter throw. And even though it's Joe Bob Outfitters, I don't know who makes it for them, but it is a solid safety. This is like the third one I've had, and you can see it's very crisp. It's very positive. It's worked great. So that's the safety that I use there. For dust cover, went ahead and got a Forward Control Design, throw a little more duck sauce on there. Single nipple, did get my hands on a double nipple finally, but I put that on the 12.5 build. As far as the vertical foregrip, was going to go, again, traditional Mark 12, use the Knight's Armament broomstick vertical grip, but I already had the Tango Down long one, so this is what I went with. Added on a couple of the KC rail panels to, again, give it that little bit of classic look to it. For the bipod, I went with Atlas. Thought about doing the standard regular Harris bipod, but the Atlases are just so cool. I mean, they're solid. They look a lot more stout. They give you adjustability in multiple different positions. They extend out in multiple places. Pretty nice and quick and easy. And they're super solid, well-regarded bipod option out there. So that's the reason I went with that. And for the muzzle device, you know, I do have my Huxworks HXQD556 that's currently in jail. Hopefully that'll be coming out soon. I think I'm on day like 217, so I'm hoping just a couple more months. Have several other guns that have the flash hider. And typically flash hiders is something that I value more than reduced recoil. 223 is really not the hardest recoiling gun anyway. This one I decided to go ahead and give their muzzle brake a shot. This one here, unlike the flash hider, it does need to be timed. So had to mess with a few different combinations of shims. It was really kicking my butt, but I finally got it timed to where it needs to be. As for optic choices, so no having iron sights on this, especially since this is not a QD. Scope mount, that's really redundant. They're pointless. I got Magpul Pros, but you know, I already had them on hand, and they add very little weight to the gun. Plus, I think it's just for aesthetic reasons, I don't really like the look of not having iron. So I said, what the heck? I decided to go ahead and throw it on there. Scope mount, went with the Knight's Armament 30mm mount. It's a 1.5 in height, which, you know, I have come to really favor the taller mounts, but I know with more of a precision type rifle, you really want to have that good solid cheek weld. Additionally, on top of that, you know, when I bought the Knight's Armament on my 12.5 build, bought it secondhand. It came with the 193 mount, and Knight's also sells a kit where you can buy the scope caps to use on our 30mm mounts. It has mounting points. It has them right in the middle, and then some off cant to the side a little bit. And then once you put those on, they make a springboard that you can screw into the scope mount, and then you can mount an RMR. So originally planned that for the 12.5, but with the primary optic being at 1.93, it was just way, way too tall. So I ended up using standard scope mounts. So I figured for this build here, being I was going with a 1.5 inch height, I would be able to mount this at 12 o'clock. Well, so going with the primary optic, I wanted to, I wasn't going to buy anything clone correct. I didn't want to spend a ton of money on it, but I wanted something that was decent quality. Did a bit of research, determined, you know, a 2.5 to 15 range, 2.5 to 10 was pretty standard, or 3.5 to 15. So the Trijicon Credo HX, this is the 2.5 to 15 power. So it's 2.5 to 15 by 42. Again, 30mm tube on it. I figured that would be a really good choice on it. Got a great deal on it on Black Friday's sale on Brownell's website. Got it for a really, really good price. But the downside to it, as you can see, the elevation turret, as tall as it is, would not allow me to use or mount the RMR in a 12 o'clock position. So what I simply did is I used it in one of the offset slots on those scope caps, so it's canted a little bit over to the side. What I came to find out about that I didn't like is not only did I have to lift my head up off the scope or off the stock, so I had to change my head position and roll the rifle. I found it was very difficult for me it felt very awkward, and I found myself fishing for the red dot on the RMR. So I was like, all right, that's not going to really work out. So I figured I would go ahead and give the air socket offset a shot, you know, use it on my 12.5 with my Acro P2, and I really liked that one. So I went ahead and ordered one up. I like on my 12.5, I have it mounted back here behind the scope mount. The problem with that, though, with the 1.5 mount is it's so close to the magnification adjustment here that I couldn't, it was hitting it, and it was just too close. I couldn't even hardly access the buttons on the side of the RMR, so I had to go with a more forward position, mounted here in front of the scope mount. Also being the fact that, you know, this one here has a predetermined holes for the thumb screw for the adjustments, you know, whereas with my Vortex Razor and I think they call it a switchback lever, you know, you can position it any way you want. So moving it to the forward position was really the only choice that I had here. As I mentioned on my 12.5, I love the air socket mount because it gives you the option of mounting it at 45 or at 35. Now on my 12.5, I have it mounted at 35 and it works out great. Again, with the giant knobs on the Credo HX, in this case the illumination, it gets in the way and takes up about almost half of the sight picture. So I had to move it out to 45. No big deal. I know some of you may at this point may be looking at it saying, hey, that's not an RMR. So yes, did start with an RMR on this one. And then I ordered, I've always wanted an SRO, which this one is here. And I know that the SRO has some reputation for being a bit fragile if you drop them right on the bell. And I always said I would never buy an SRO till I got my hands on the JagerWorks Bros, which is a stainless steel shroud that goes around the optic. Leaves a little bit of a gap, as you can see there. So if you do happen to knock it on something, you have a chance of not, or absorbing some of that impact and not breaking your SRO. So finally got my hands on a JagerWorks Bros, and I bought it for a G17 slide, and then I did not realize how big the Bros was. I mean, the SRO was already a very big red dot. Didn't realize how big it was, and I thought it looked really gawky. So I went ahead and decided to put the SRO and the Bros onto this gun and then put that RMR on the G17 instead. So that's where I stand right now when it comes to a sighting system. For scope caps, I just bought some Butler Creek. know, a lot of people say these things are garbage. I did actually. I bought a Tenebrex cover for it, and when I got it, it didn't fit it. And you know, the Tenebrex cover, it's like $57 for a scope cap or something like that. So I ended up returning it. Didn't really get a lot of help from Tenebrex on choosing the right one for it, even though the one I had said it was actually for this particular scope. So I just said screw it. Instead of spending all that money on that, I went ahead and just bought the Butler Creeks. You know, you pop them open and it has the option of flipping them up vertical, or they say lay flat, but they don't really lay flat, lay flatter. So that's the optics, the sighting system. And then on to the weapon light choice. So in this one here, I ended up going with the Arisaka 18650, along with the Malkoff E2 XTL. It's 500 lumen light with 55,000 candela. I have 2 other of these lights. They're awesome lights, have a ton of throw. You know, maybe someday I'll upgrade this to maybe the new Cloud Defense Rain 3.0. Has 100,000 candela. Definitely get out there and reach a little bit further, like this rifle will probably be capable of hitting. But for now, it's good enough for me. Just use a standard Surefire UE tail cap and then a mod button light that I had laying around. So that's pretty much the setup for the lights. Sling wise, I went with the Blue Force Gears Vickers padded sling. I definitely love the Blue Force Gears slings. As you see here, I got it in OD green, and it's nice with another little touch with the Centurion rail is that you do have a built-in QD socket here. There is another one back here, but it's obviously covered up by the KAC rail cover. And again, padded version. Had to have it because this rifle is chunky. Between the quad rail, between the stainless steel barrel, fully loaded with a 20-round mag. And you know, if you got Mark 12, you got to get them. You got to get them steel 20-rounders. Definitely give that nice peak aesthetic. But this gun fully loaded with 20 rounds of 77 grain open tip match. This rifle weighs 13.4 ounces fully loaded. So she's thick. She's definitely very thick. So the padded sling was a must. Got a chance. Haven't been able to shoot it very much, but I'm glad I was able to at least shoot it. Get some marks there on the shell deflector. Took it out this weekend. I was out with some young boys and we were letting them shoot some beginning shooters, so we really spent more time with them. But I did take a 20-round mag and mag dump it through it just to make sure that it functioned the way that it should, which it did. Ran without a hiccup, so I was very happy to see that also. Overall, I'm super happy with this gun. Really like the way that it turned out. I think it has a lot of utility to it. Even though, you know, I mean, you take my Mark 18 with a 10.3-inch barrel and you compare it to this thing's like a dang musket compared to it. But even having an 18-inch barrel on this thing, it's pretty handy. Besides the weight. Definitely have been very happy with it, and I think that's about the build overall in a nutshell. Definitely had a lot of fun, this being my second complete build where, you know, I took stripped receivers and set barrels and gas blocks and all that stuff, with my 12.5 being the first. You know, maybe I'll make another video coming up here soon going over some of the lessons learned and some of the tools that have helped me assemble everything together. But I definitely like it a lot, and it's definitely a better feeling when you go shoot it and when you're actually using it. You have a little bit more sense of pride when you've put it together yourself. So that's it overall together. Again, my Mark 12-inspired SPR. Frankenstein build between Centurion, forward control design, LMT, tons of other parts. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like it, please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. Thanks for watching.